Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich. Now, last time we played HoI 4 together was in the Zhili clique, formerly the Qing government. We overthrew the corrupt Chinese monarch, and we established ourselves as a little bit of a Republican government. We fought some very, very bloody wars. Oh, Muggy Jess, hello. Thank you for the follow. How are you, friend? Good to see ya. And we ended up uniting China, more or less. Now, it's time to hop back in. You know it. The boat of dogs is here. Ukraine got an update a while ago. And I mean, Ukraine has not been relevant for the past year and a half, realistically. But with recent events, I figure, you know what? Why not? Let's hop in. Let's check it out. Check out the new content. There's a whole... I have not seen this before. This is cool. This is cool. Ukraine got an update, both IRL and in-game. True. Well, I figured it was about time we go ahead and check it out. So, it's in the new dispatch section, so let's go ahead and check her out. Kaiserreich also got some TNO style opening screen. They really did. TNO once again leaking its way into everything HoI 4 wise, modding wise at least. The dream of an independent Ukraine came into fruition in March of 1917 with the birth of the Ukrainian People's Republic, but a pro-German coup placed Pavlo Skoropadsky in charge the next year. Lack of political representation, as well as failed land reform efforts in the 1920s, have plagued the regime, and resistance to the hetman's regime has been building up with cracks beginning to show. The image of stability and order championed by the regime may prove far more fragile than many are led to believe. Let me see. That might have just been delay response. But Slavic names are Chinese names. Chinese names sometimes are just shorter and simpler. There are less syllables, so I can just get it over with, and if I butcher the pronunciation, I don't have to stick on it too much. Names like these are very long, and so those kind of kill me a little bit more every time I pronounce them, and I know I'm getting it wrong. But that's just my personal thought on pronouncing Slavic versus Chinese. If you couldn't tell already, I'm not Ukrainian. I barely speak English sometimes, so I'm going to butcher all these pronunciations, so I apologize ahead of time. Let's go ahead and start this up. Brain rot begins. Indeed. Indubitably D. Oh! You were not joking. Look at that. In the political chaos of Russia's civil war, a new nation was founded, a nation built upon centuries of dreamers and philosophers. The nation of Ukraine. First declared independent in January 1918, the self-declared Ukrainian People's Republic signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk and became a virtual protectorate of German Empire. At the time, this was seen a small price to pay for German and Austro-Hungarian troops driving out the Bolsheviks out of Kiev and back to Russia. Ukraine became the breadbasket of Central Powers, shipping grain back to Germany and Austria to feed the starving populations. However, German fears of impending defeat on the Western Front and promises of sweeping land reform from the People's Republic persuaded German command to change their policy. On the 29th of April, 1918, my birthday, fun fact, a German-backed coup overthrew the Ukrainian People's Republic, and it in its place, established a Ukrainian state under the leadership of Ukrainian General Pavlo Skoropadsky, proclaimed hetman. Skoropadsky transformed Ukraine into a military dictatorship. Reforms under the People's Republic were reversed, land confiscated during the UNR's tenure was returned to the upper class of landowners, and the hetman became the undisputed leader of Ukraine. After a turbulent and conflict-filled 20s, the Ukrainian state has moved into the 30s as many things. The breadbasket of Middle Europa and the protector of the Ukrainian people. Ukraine has not yet perished, and under stable leadership will march into the New World as a vanguard of the East. Real spoilers. Interesting. I gotta go sleep. See ya. Well, thanks for hopping in, Kalinka. Nice talking to you. Don't really know what any of these mean, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what we want to do. We'll continue. Let's check out our starting position. So we are led by the Othdems, the USKHG. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. The Ukrainian Union of Agrarian Statists, or the Ukrainian Democratic Agrarian Party. Semi-formally known as the Hetman's Coalition, the political alliance between the two main Ukrainian conservative parties has a controversial history. Founded in 1918, the Ukrainian Democratic Agrarian Party, originally the Ukrainian Democratic Party, sought to portray itself as a prime Ukrainian, as opposed to a greater Russian in Ukraine, conservative political force. Their politics combined notable economic interventionism with law and order policies, all wrapped up in a package with a strong executive and an influential parliament. The party's leadership was also instrumental in helping bring the hetman into power. The Union of Agrarian Statists would split up on the eve of the 1924 elections, but was forced into a coalition with agrarian Democrats to preserve a conservative majority. The USKHD, espousing Lipnitsky's classocratic ideas and anti-parliamentarian sentiment, has acted as a junior partner in the coalition. I can speak. I can use words. I know big words. And here we are, Pavlo the Hetman. Get a little extra political power every day, which is very nice. Pavlo Skoropadsky is many things. An opportunist, a Cossack, a military officer, and a descendant of Ukrainian nobility. But most importantly, he is hetman, the undisputed leader of Ukraine. Despite his lineage from an 18th century hetman of the Zaporozhian host, Skoropadsky rose up through Tsar's military ranks in a flash. During the Ukrainian Revolution, he became a chief organizer of UAC and the numerous Cossack volunteer units, all of which sought to combat pro-Bolshevik militias. An avid opponent of socialism, he started plotting against UPR with his allies among the landowners, capitalists, and military, before culminating in its overthrow on April 29, 1918. The so-called Ukrainian state was established, the Central Rada was abolished, and Skoropadsky seized full authority as a hetman, reversing the many reforms of the previous government. Still, Skoropadsky promised to hold elections to the Soyam as soon as the political and financial situation was stable again. The next year, Skoropadsky would use his temporary powers to significant effect, as he and General Konstantin Przovsky, commanding troops flush with German military equipment, would crush Nestor Makhno's anarchist revolt with an iron fist. With the German victory in the Weltkrieg and the end of the Russian Civil War, Ukraine set in for a period of peace. In 1920, the Council of Ministers passed a new constitution which gave significant judicial and legislative powers of the Soyam and Senate, but retained some of the hetman's powers from the old constitution, including the ability to appoint the Ottoman minister and to dissolve the Soyam at will. Shortly after the 24 elections, Skoropadsky would form a grand coalition of right-wing parties and interest groups loyal to the hetman, marking the beginning of a ruling circle that would rule Ukraine for 15 years, despite undergoing significant changes over time. He has defined the political landscape in Ukraine since its birth as a nation, regardless of whether he is a tyrant and a German puppet he is decried as, or whether he is a great symbol of Ukrainian unity and a vanguard against socialism he's praised as. None can deny he has made his mark on the country's history. None indeed. So, interesting. So we have a Prussian Ustmann. Extra production costs. Okay. And if we get rid of this, we gotta compensate Germany, it seems. Interesting. So we have the unfinished revolution. National spirit, which is not nice at all. Ukrainian national identity hasn't ever truly been united around one idea, and the period of independence hasn't exactly changed that. On one hand, there is the majoritarian rural population, which is overwhelmingly Ukrainian in language, culture, and ethnicity. On the other hand, there is the mixed population of cities and urban centers, Ukrainians, both non-Russified and Russified by their nature, ethnic Russians, and Jews. In addition to some others, all make up the urban national composition of Ukraine. As such, the mixed makeup of major cities provide a cultural contrast for the overwhelmingly Ukrainophone rural regions. This is further offset by the concentration of urban centers in the country's eastern periphery. The fact that there's a noted distance in literacy between the nation's urban and rural dwellers. Next, we have a halt to construction plans, which is also just not nice, is it? As the government began to settle in the post-Civil War, the leading members expressed their desire to draw up a mass industrialization plan, which could be completed to a reasonable price and with a reasonable pace. To that effect, they went ahead and enlisted the help of the Industrial Lobbyist Assembly, Protofis. Yet as the minister became occupied with land reform almost full-time, so were the industrialization plans halted for an indeterminate amount of time. As 36 dawns, the plans are still mostly in their infancy. Next, we have a strong agrarian exports, which is actually a very nice little bonus. Our economy is largely based around agriculture, which we use to our utmost advantage. Buying and selling rural products nets us the third largest economy in the Reich, after Belgium and Germany herself. Let's hope economic growth keeps up for us. We'll see about that. Next, we have a land reform debacle, which just about takes this, as well as our bounce for this, and shits on it. We still get a slight reduction in consumer good factories, though. The state of land reform in our nation truly was something to be desired. Devised just before the 2008 election, the plan was intended to be a compromise between the parliamentary forces of the conservative government, democratic agrarians, and agrarian statists, and the lobbyist union of landowners, which is dominated by great landowners, in contrast with small and mid-sized landowners supportive of the parliamentarians. Yet the compromise appears to have ended in a failure, with the parliamentary government declaring the plan to not be extensive enough, in contrast to a lobbyist association stating that the plan is too radical instead. The arisen friction has given a rise in local corruption across the land committees, all of which result in land reform grinding to a halt, which is followed by the loss of a sewing majority in 32 elections and a minority government coming to power. So a bit of a prickly situation we're in. But hopefully we can overcome that. Let's get a field marshal. We'll go with our guy. This field marshal. And then let's go with this guy, Alexander Sakrodsky. Why not? Let's get our research going. A little support equipment. A little bit of engineering. And then construction 1. Actually, focus first on getting a factory done in Kiev. Kiev? Not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce it. Then we've got the national focus to check out. I'm kind of tempted to do this side of things. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but I mean, just seeing how big those borders can get, that is tempting, I'm not gonna lie. So this seems like a more democratic / potentially socialist, well, syndicalist path. This is our Black Monday. It's interesting. We can complete 5 focuses from this. Let's do... Start working on some army stuff, I think. Starting with the army and the state. That extra army XP per day is going to be nice. Let's go for that. Though Ukraine boasts one of the largest armies in the German sphere, it's plagued by organizational inefficiencies, budget deficit, and other remnants of the old imperial era. As war looms over the horizon, the army must be whipped into a proper fighting force soon. Do we have any decisions? Not quite yet. And here we go. Starting off with no claims from Russia, which is very, very nice change of pace, especially from like this particular region. Yeah. So we have a coalition partner with these guys as well as social liberals, market liberals. Not a very big coalition at all, though, which is a little, I don't know about concerning, but annoying perhaps. Kerensky shot? What? Never. No. The Ukrainian state boasts the third largest economy in Middle Europe, centered around its massive agricultural sector, rooted in Ukraine's fertile plains. Known far and wide as the breadbasket of the Reichsbach, they produce more grain than any of their allies. This has been a double-edged sword, as industrialization has been slow due to disinterest by landowning elites and the relatively small urban middle class. Most of Ukrainians work in agriculture, and those unlucky enough not to own land work on the land of others, often rich landowners who are a central part of the hetman's support base. This inequality is especially pronounced in western Ukraine, the poorest part of the country. There has once again been campaigns there that agitate against the hetman's regime and demand borderline socialist changes. The police will keep the rabble-rousers in sight, but it's probable that nothing serious will come of it. Will they ever stop complaining? That's what I'm asking. I started feeling a little hungry, so I started going after my little protein shake here. Gives me a little bit of sustenance. Not much, but some. I will speed up a little bit. Oh, look at that. Today, the German construction and automobile company HoI has opened a new tractor factory in the city of Kiev as part of their series of investments in Ukraine. They join the German companies which have opened new manufacturing plants in Ukraine, attracted by poor workers' protections and wages than in Germany itself. The URDP has been a vocal critic of this practice, seeing as exploitation of Ukrainian commoners by foreign capital. As far as the Hetman coalition is concerned, they justify lucrative deals with German corporations by the economic benefits it brings: job creation, easier access to industrial goods such as tractors, and, unofficially in many cases, generous gifts that state officials have received. Even less apologetic, argue that since Ukraine has limited capital and industrial know-how, foreign investments is the only way to start the long process of industrialization. Hey! More tractors. I'll take it. We have a decent amount of manpower. Today in Odessa, workers at one of the many shipyards have laid down their tools and chained the entrance shut before listing off various demands such as better pay, less hours, and better safety protections. The owners of the shipyards have demanded that we send the police in to shut down the strike with force. Let's make them some empty promises, gonna get them back to work. Interesting. A rally in Rovno. We received information that Simon Petlura, one of the exiled U.S. DRP leaders in Lviv, will be holding a rally in Rovno. He's been living abroad ever since his party, and anything left of it was banned, and only visits the country occasionally, out of the justified fear that our secret police might pay him a visit. It seems that the western countryside has become more and more receiving to Petlura's dangerous promises of land and freedom. His publication has been found widely in circulation. Even the exact amount of his supporters is unknown. Attempts to get the Austrian officials to hinder his actions have proved in vain, citing that peaceful political activism does not break any laws of the Habsburg Empire. Seeing that he is becoming more and more of a threat, perhaps we should use this chance to arrest him before he can arrange his rally. Let's not aggravate his supporters needlessly. Let's be careful there. Totalist Charter. Oh. Independence Day. Officially, the Ukrainian state recognizes January 22nd as the anniversary of Ukraine's independence from Russia. The formal celebration is much more modest than one might expect of the occasion. That men and the government each make statements applauding the spirit of the Ukrainian nation and vowing to defend it for decades to come. Aside from these nods, there's a little fanfare from the government, which prefers to get along with its business as much as it can get away with it. Their aim is to avoid having to discuss what actually happened on January 22nd, 1918. As they all know, Ukraine's independence was not declared by the Ukrainian state, and Skoropadsky had little to do with the act. Rather, it was with the Central Rada of the UPR, led by progressive and socialist forces, that asserted Ukraine as a separate, independent, free, sovereign state of the Ukrainian people in its fourth universal. While there is a degree of continuity between the People's Republic and the state, Ottoman minister Dmytro Doroshenko was a member of the Central Rada. The fact remains that the Ukrainian state was later founded in opposition to the People's Republic, allowing an ideological enemy to claim responsibility for Ukrainian independence. Accordingly, Independence Day often carries much greater significance for the hetman and its opponents than its supporters. Republican organizations sometimes choose the date for anti-government agitation, and celebrations in both Ukraine and neighboring Galicia have been known to take political dimensions, with notorious Republican Simon Petlura taking the opportunity to offer his own Independence Day message. Authorities often struggle to crack down on these Republican events. After all, who would arrest a man for celebrating their people's independence? Tell me more about the Republicans next time, though, because I gotta leave it here. But thanks as always for watching, gang. Like if you liked, dislike if you didn't. Leave any comments, feedback down in the comment section below. I read all comments, get appreciate any old feedback you might have for me. If you have any comments, leave them down in the comment section below. Hit the sub button if you want to keep up to date with uploads. I do them weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. Check out my various links down in the description box below. And yeah, that's about it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogboat333, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.